Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation on the 2020 presidential election and Marist College students. This is a project that we have been working on for the past couple weeks, gathering and analyzing information and data on Marist students and their tendencies when it comes to the 2020 presidential election and vote. So basically a little bit about the topic. As I hope all of you know, in America, it is your right that you have the ability to vote for who represents the people in the American citizens in government. Last year, or not last year, but the last voting cycle in the 2016 election, 138 million people made up the vote for that presidential election. And of those 138 million people, that was only 58% of the voter eligible population for that year, which clearly is not a lot. So we wanted to see, of that 58%, how do college students vary or compare to that? And also we wanted to see what role does gender play in the political ideology of students? So what are the tendencies that for college students when it comes to political ideology, supporting candidates, and voting were some of the things that we were interested in and conducted research on. So here's some of the literature review that we conducted prior to making the survey and conducting the research. There is Bates University is a college university that has a lot of pride for its political involvement. And in a study that was done, only 43.5% of their voter eligible population actually did vote in the 2016 election, which was a very small number. That was even less than the American population overall in the last presidential cycle. So that was one literature review we conducted. Another was how live presidential debates. Two have already commenced in this election season, and this study was on the immediate responses to the live debates, and it was proven in this study that they do actually have an effect on who people vote for, no matter what their political ideology is or what candidate they support. And then the final literature review that we wanted to talk about that we looked into as well was how college students vote and politically lean in elections. And this was our main one because this has to do with the social and political norms of universities and the general way that the college it is just conducting itself on campus and how that influences students. And we wanted to specifically look at what was the roles that gender plays into this social norm and political norm when it comes to voting and supporting candidates. And the variables that we conducted for this experiment, independent variables were gender, declared major, and political affiliation. And the dependent variables were political ideology, level of involvement, and support of candidates, with the main two we looked into being gender and political ideology.
Based on our research, we decided that our hypothesis needed to include political ideology and the effects of this to gender. So our hypothesis stated, we believe that gender is indicative to the political ideology of a student at Marist. Following that, we said that students' political ideology can indicate the level of involvement and interest on campus and all across wherever they go due to like political issues, national issues. Political affiliation and ideology usually directly impact the student's choice, but we did notice in our data that students who declared themselves as Republican may still be choosing Biden in the election. And as Nick said, the independent variables, political affiliation and political ideology can affect the student's choice of candidate. Next. Our research question, we decided to pose a research question around gender as well. Our question states, how is gender related to Marist students' political ideology? The initial hypothesis directly correlated to our research question, and it prompts how gender is or is not a factor to political opinions and choices. Overall, this opens up the conversation that we do ask about in our questionnaire, such as political candidate that you are voting for, involvement, interest, and the other questions that we will state later. In which all of these will be answered in the questionnaire, and we will talk about more later. The way that we constructed our questionnaire, we made questions very simple and straightforward so there was no confusion and we could get an accurate reading from our participants. Questions were cut down into short phrases or a question so that even the students taking the quiz or questionnaire quickly, we could still get an accurate reading. originally we pre-tested the survey and we decided that we needed an additional question to just get a better understanding of what the students were going to vote for, what their ideology was, and so forth. This determined in what type of accurate picture we could get of the political views at Marist, such as the issues that they define as important and how even their major can conduct in this research. Next.
So going off of that, this is our codebook / questionnaire in which most of our questions were Likert type scale to make it easier to evaluate using the SPSS program and software. So just examples of that are major, as Emily mentioned at the end. What is your declared major? School of Management, School of Science, 3 being School of Liberal Arts, and so forth. Then we asked things like presidential candidate. What presidential candidate are you leaning towards voting for? And then we asked a question relating towards a debate. If they watched it, 1 being yes, 2 being no. Then we followed that up with asking how their performance was, whether Biden or Trump performed better, and then following that one up with the influence of that debate, 1 being major increased support of Biden, and 5 being major increased support of Trump, and everything in between. And then going off of the question we had to add, which was news consumption. I regularly consume the news, 1, multiple times a day, 2, once every day, 3, weekly, 4, less than once a week, 5, never. So these are just all of the kinds of questions we asked our respondents. So for sampling and execution, we had 23 females, 23 males for a 50-50 split. They were Marist College students. We contacted friends of ours, and this is convenient sampling because we selected the respondents who were most convenient to us. The survey was both online and anonymous. We sent out our surveys via text or email. Respondents told us when they were finished to check them off the list, just to make sure we wouldn't have any conflicts. And we had to ensure there was a 50-50 male-female split because, as we emphasized in our research question, it is relating more towards gender and politics. Description of respondents, as I said earlier, we surveyed current Marist College students. Respondents were from all 6 schools: management, communication, and the arts, etc., and undecided. Respondents' political affiliation ranged from Democrat, Republican, and independent parties. Their ideologies range from extremely conservative to extremely liberal and everything in between. 93.5% of respondents watched the first presidential debate. 97.8% of respondents are voting either Biden or Trump. 74% of respondents consume the news at least once a week. 86.9% of respondents are neutrally or more invested in the election.
So for the data analysis of our survey, our results indicated that students who were leaning towards voting for Biden were more liberal than people who were voting for Trump. And as you can see from the screenshot, it was significant because the p-value was less than 0.05. And therefore, like the mean was for, the mean for Biden was 2.62, which is more closer to it, which is in between being somewhat liberal and being moderate. And then for Trump was 4.25, which is between being somewhat conservative and extremely conservative. Our results also indicated that females were more liberal while males were more neutral. This, again, was seen by significant because the p-value was less than 0.05. And we also found that there was no correlation between party affiliation and comfort level or party affiliation and investment level. Our hypothesis was supported as we found that females were more likely to be liberal, while males were more likely to be moderates. This would make sense in light of our literature review. One of the studies done by Theodore Newcomb, he found that conservative females were more influenced by liberal norms. More research would have to be done to see if there was a correlation between his study and our study, but it just is an interesting thing to reflect upon. Some of the limitations in our survey would be that we would simply just need a larger sample size in the future to measure the validity of our results, because while we did get 46 responses and it was pretty evenly split between genders, Marist does have over 5,000 enrolled students, and so it would just be more representative if we had a bigger sample size. Another variable that we were interested in was major, but we again would just need a greater sample size that would be more representative of all the majors, because we just were limited with the data of specific majors. And also because the sample was based on people we knew, that could be a confounding variable. And so in the future, if we were to replicate this study, we would want to have a more random distribution of the surveys. So possibly maybe distributing them to all Marist students, or besides just the people we knew. And thanks for listening.